Orientation in organic intelligence theory refers to connection to the immediate environment through the senses: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting. Pleasure in organic intelligence theory refers to feeling good, which can apply both to excitation and relaxation. A friend tells a funny joke and you laugh, pleasurable excitation. Your biology then cools down from the laughter and the cool down feels good, pleasurable relaxation. Pleasure also includes feeling neutral. That's enough excitement for the moment. It feels good to be neutral, to feel not much at all. Pleasure also includes feeling better, including less bad. You run into a glass wall, it hurts, and the pain fades over time. The fading pain, the feeling better, counts as pleasure in organic intelligence theory, even though you're still in pain. Perhaps it counts as pleasure in an attenuated sense. The primary sense of pleasure in organic intelligence refers to feeling good or neutral, without pain or perturbation. But feeling reduced pain or reduced perturbation does count as pleasure in an attenuated sense. These two conditions, orientation and pleasure, are the signs that intensity in your biology is not too high. When intensity in the biology is too high, the signs are, first, that your attention cannot easily connect to the environment because the attention is consumed in the interior intensity. And second, that you're feeling discomfort, unpleasantness. For example, you're having tea in your garden and you're consumed with worry about whether your daughter will fail medical school. The intensity of the worry, let's say, the mental intensity and the emotional intensity are so strong that your attention cannot easily connect to the environment around you, your garden, the sky. And it's so strong that it's uncomfortable, the anxiety. By contrast, if your biology were stable in orientation and pleasure, the experience of the thought about your daughter, about what if she fails medical school, would be fundamentally different. I wonder if my daughter will fail medical school. As you are still able to enjoy your tea and your garden, you'll still have thoughts and feelings with that thought about your daughter possibly failing medical school, but they won't be so intense as to control your attention. They will be within a base of orientation and pleasure, overall comfort. Orientation entails actual connection to the environment. Your eyes, for example, are connected to the garden, the sky, the sun. If, as you have the thought, what if my daughter fails medical school? Your eyes are open, but they're not registering anything or barely registering anything. That's not orientation. Also, if your eyes are locked intensely on something, that's not orientation. Suppose, as the thought, what if my daughter fails medical school, loops in your mind, your eyes are locked on the setting sun. All you experience, in addition to the looping thought, is the sight of the sun as it sets. You hold your hold on your teacup loosens, the teacup tilts, boiling hot tea pours onto your right bare foot. You don't feel the pain, the heat, or the liquid on your foot at all. Your tea was sweetened. Ants come and cover your feet. You don't feel the ants. The sun has set, and you're still staring as if it were still there. A coyote leaps into your garden and starts killing and devouring your chickens. You don't hear any of your chickens' screams or see their entrails being ripped apart and feathers flying everywhere. That's not orientation. At some point, you suddenly see the severed body parts of your chickens and you scream. And you have no idea if the scream is about the bloody carnage around you or about your daughter. That's not orientation or pleasure. Why is comfortable intensity important? Why are orientation and pleasure important? Besides the fact that enjoying life is good and suffering is bad, which is already a hugely important fact, orientation and pleasure are fundamentally important because their presence and stability in the biology indicate that your biology will cooperate with your conscious efforts to change, or that it is much more likely to cooperate with your conscious efforts to change in some way, to reduce your anxiety, to be less negative, to lose weight, to build relationships that aren't repeats of prior bad ones, to get more done in life. If you've been trying to change in some way and it hasn't happened yet, according to organic intelligence, there's a good chance it hasn't happened yet because your biology will not cooperate with you. And often, the harder you try to change, the more your biology will backlash against you. And even if you are making changes, say, getting more done in life, these changes may be more biologically expensive than they need to be. If you have to fight your biology to get more done, that's much more expensive than if your biology cooperates with you. Your biology will cooperate with you to the extent that it is stable in orientation and pleasure. Orientation and pleasure, technically and ideally, are automatic and effortless. Practicing orientation and pleasure, meaning putting effort into orienting and feeling good, technically and very strictly speaking, are not orientation and pleasure in the organic intelligence sense. But practicing helps build the trait of automatic and effortless connection to the environment and to feeling good. To practice pleasure, do things you enjoy. And when you feel good or feel better, pay attention to the good feeling or better feeling. Feel it a bit more. See if you can find ways to reduce suffering and increase pleasure. For example, adjusting yourself in a chair or in bed or in standing in a way that makes you a little more comfortable. Or when eating, enjoying the food 1% more. To practice orientation, just start doing it more. Start connecting to the environment through the senses more. In most situations, seeing may be the easiest sense to work with. The classic instruction in organic intelligence is to let the eyes go where they want to go. The wording of this instruction, let the eyes go where they want to go, is intentional. and different from, say, look around you. Let the eyes go where they want to go invites you to let seeing happen, let orientation happen, and to not try hard, not try to focus hard, not direct your attention hard. Instead, to let go of control a bit, let go of directed attention a bit. You may still need to exert some control to direct your attention into seeing, especially if your attention keeps getting pulled toward interior intensity, thoughts, feelings. But we want to use as little effort as possible in looking around. The practice of orientation is ultimately for the sake of building the trait of orientation, of automatic and effortless connection to the environment through the senses. So we want to lean into whatever automaticity and effortlessness there is already when we practice orientation. There are already. Orientation is different from pleasure, and we want to keep the two distinct. Suppose you're in the living room, letting your eyes go where they want to go, and they go to a picture frame on the fireplace mantle. It's a picture of your daughter. And as you look at your daughter in the picture, you start feeling a lot of pleasure, warm, fuzzy feelings, your love for her, and maybe you even get a little teary-eyed. That's pleasure, that's great, and it would fall under pleasure practice, but not so much under orientation practice. Because in this case, your attention is pulled toward the pleasure as opposed to neutral awareness of the environment. Orientation is neutral awareness of the environment. If you were to let your eyes move a little bit to the right and to look at the wall by the fireplace, and that felt more neutral, that's more orientation. Orientation is also different from pain, just as it is different from pleasure. Your eyes go to your daughter in the picture, and then you're struck with anxiety. What if she doesn't care for me when I become old and infirm? What if she puts me in a home and I die alone and lonely? And as you stare at the picture, you have an inner image of her laughing at you and sending you off in a canoe into the ice-cold ocean to die. That's not orientation. Orientation is neutral, unfocused, relaxed awareness of the environment, which is characteristically pleasant, not painful, but not an intense pleasure that absorbs your attention. Let your eyes go to things that do not evoke an intense reaction. Some reactivity is normal and desirable, indicating that you have access to thoughts and feelings. So if your eyes go to your daughter, there may be thoughts and feelings. If they move to the wall, there may be thoughts and feelings. If they move to the door, there may be thoughts and feelings. And then if they move to your cat who is sleeping on the floor, there may be thoughts and feelings. The degree of orientation is the degree to which your attention can easily and neutrally reside in the environment, even while there are at the same time, and desirably, thoughts, feelings, and maybe images. So far, I've discussed seeing. The other four senses are hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Of these, hearing may be the easiest for orientation practice in many situations. let your ears hear whatever sounds are around you. And we're aiming again at more neutral experience as opposed to pleasure or pain. Smelling and tasting can often drive the attention into the interior as opposed to staying in orientation. A classic example is food that gives you pleasure. You're at a restaurant, hungry. The server just delivered your pasta carbonara, and you dig in. It smells and tastes great. The onions, the pancetta, and your attention gets lost in the pleasure and in a whole inner world of experience. That's great for pleasure practice, but not so much for orientation practice. For touch, see what tactile contact gives you a more or less neutral reaction. Maybe your work involves a lot of typing on a computer. That's thousands of opportunities for touch. Touching your coffee cup, touching your desk. In addition to the keys, you can touch your coffee cup, your desk, your chair, your toothbrush, etc. If you're touching something that's comforting or pleasurable, like petting your dog or cat, that can get more into the pleasure zone than into the orientation zone. When doing tactile orientation, we want to focus, when doing any orientation, we want to focus on the external environment. In the case of touch, I'm feeling my cat's fur. Emphasis on the contact with the external environment, the cat's fur, as opposed to on interior sensation. Okay, happy practice.